Part 111. After My Death, the Villain Blackened Again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 1114. Qi Yuan didn't dare to tell Yanj once. She always eats the vinegar of his sister. At the same time, his heart is funny, but he is also worried. In case she remembers once, remembering that she was his sister, wouldn't she never be as close to him as she is now? She forgot about it, forgotten everything about him and her. Although he was indignant, he also had a rush. After all, she only treated him as a younger brother. After all, her love for him only belonged to her loved ones, and she never thought of developing feelings outside of her loved ones with him. Yan Ji's anxious and sad eyes on Shang Qiwan, a flash of light in his head, suddenly had an incredible idea. She stared at Qi Yuan, her voice tense, and asked, Wouldn't you think, I'm your oldest sister? Yan Ji knows that although Qi Yuan has been sealed with a part of his memory, his ability is greatly reduced, but since he has such a thought, he must not be alone. After all, this kind of big man, he killed so many questers, and he is not a person who will be easily confused. He thinks that, there must be some basis. Yan Song stared at him. Her head moved at a high speed, trying to find a man similar to Qi Yuan from the characters in the previous planes. But there was no clue in his head. How could she be so impressed by such a big brother? Qi Yuan didn't speak, and Yanj pursed his lips and glared at him for a long time before he said, You don't answer, it's the default. Then tell me, how did you and me meet? How could I be your sister? Qi Yuan reached out and rubbed her ears. Next time, if you still remember your brother next time, as a reward, your brother will tell you that if you don't remember your next time, your brother will kill you 100 times. Words, you tell me now, if you don't tell me, I will forget you next time. Why not next time? This man's brain whole world, Yanj feels that once he comes, he won't throw himself in the net for the second time. Qi Yuan heard the words, squinted slightly, and looked at the words of song. The dangerous breath suddenly spilled around the words of song. She turned pale for a moment, but did not show weakness, but instead looked up, staring at Qi Yuan with a stubborn expression. The bell at 12 in the morning suddenly came from a distance. The sound was long and clear, and it went straight to the heart. Yan Song subconsciously looked down the bell. Qi Yuan pressed her into his arms at this time. Yanj lay on his shoulders, and saw countless meteors slamming into two people behind him. Qi Yuan held Yanj in his arms, and those meteors that came behind him seemed to be a little bit of shining sword light, and all banged into his body. Except for Qi Yuan snorting at the beginning, he pursed his lips and made no sound. His body was trembling slightly, presumably because of those meteors. At the same time, Yanj suddenly realized that the man who held her in his arms was aging at a rate that was visible to the naked eye. A little wrinkles appeared on the corners of the eyes, a little wrinkles on the lips, and the old spots on the face became more and more light from the beginning. And hair, from one to white, and later, the entire hair became white. Even his hands holding her tightly crouched, becoming smaller and dry. Yan Ji stared at him without blinking. She was afraid that with just a blink of an eye, he would grow old and die. After My Death, the Villain Blackened Again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 1115. How could this be? Everything in front of her made her unexpected. Qi Yuan, he is the master here. How could he be in this situation? Brother, you. Close your eyes, don't look, it's ugly. He pressed his hand on her back and pressed her head in his arms. Through a layer of clothes, Yan Ji clearly felt that his chest was not as thick and warm as before, and became hard and cold. His body has been shaking. Presumably, those so-called meteor horns entered his body very painful, only then would he have such a reaction. She had no worries about leaving, but only joy. But at this moment, hearing his low two ugly three words, without knowing why, suddenly burst into tears. "Brother, what's going on?" Chi Yuan hugged Yanj tightly. He didn't answer and didn't cry. Just tightly, motionlessly holding the words. "Time is too long." Yanj could not move, no matter what she asked. Chi Yuan did not answer. Because in Chi Yuan's arms, because the silence around him seemed like the whole world had only two of them left. Because of this, Yan Ji can clearly feel the tremor of Chi Yuan's body and the sound of his teeth trembling. At this moment, it should hurt. She didn't know how she could help him, she could only backhand, wrapped his waist, hugged him tightly, and clung to his body. Until the sky turned white, Chi Yuan finally shuddered. But Yan Song looked up at him. His eyes were sunken. The all-white hair was sparse, the cheekbones were high and raised, and his face seemed to be covered with the skin of an old bark. Overnight, he turned from a handsome man into a dusky old man. Yan Ji looked at him, tears had already filled his eyes. "Brother, what is going on with you?" Chi Yuan stretched out his hand, the skinny, old spotted hand covering Yan Ji's eyes. "In a century, it will be broken at the end of the century. The Lord and you cannot live together. You die or I die." His voice was hoarse, and his rustling voice sounded like the wind blowing an old tree, which was unpleasant. Too bad, listening to his rustling voice, there was an illusion that his own body was sawed open by his voice. His words fell, his fingers moved, and he touched the tears in his eyes. "Don't cry, if you die, you will really die, but my death is alive." Yanj did as he wished, without struggling to see him, and no more tears. His hands covered his hands, and whispered, "Brother, does it hurt?" She could see clearly that those meteor mans all entered his heart position. Presumably it is the pain of Wanjian penetrating the heart. "No pain." Chi Yuan's voice remained hoarse, "You have to remember me." The voice of Yan Song was stunned, and he solemnly returned to him, "Okay, next time, I will definitely remember you and recognize you first." His hoarse voice continued, "Next time, call my brother. It is good. The next time I will take the initiative to crawl on my bed. I like my body like this, and I like to be tired and crooked." In this voice, Yan Ji heard a bit of rogue. "It is good. The next time you cook instant noodles, don't cook so much. 1 bag is enough. You can put 5 eggs. It is good. Call me brother again." "Brother." "It sounds good." He smiled lowly, and those murky eyes full of anger were content. "It sounds good." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1116. Chi Yuan reached out and pressed his own heart. A crystal heart glowing with brilliance was held in his palm. His heart position suddenly had a dark hole. Is this what he dug out of his heart? He covered the words of the song with his other hand. He was not allowed to watch them. But the song seems to have a sense of induction, and suddenly dropped his hand. Chi Yuan pressed the crystal heart in the heart of Yan Ji's surprised eyes, and he smiled at her. His mouth seemed to be shouting, little words. The ridiculous smile has not yet bloomed, and the next moment, his body shattered into countless black films. At the same time, all the sights surrounding Yanj were broken a little bit. It's like a broken mirror, refracting countless light and black. Yanj returned to the brain hole system space in this fragmented picture. Zhu Wei's systematic voice sounded, completion of the task, congratulations to Miss Sister for having a crystal heart. Yan Ji ignored him, and she entered the chaotic space for the first time. This little sapling is growing slowly. The so-called crystal heart emerged from her chest and fell automatically to the top of her body tree, emitting a glowing white light. She has no hobbies to collect. So I felt that the heart hung on the top of her body tree, very dazzling. She stared at the heart, though it was dazzling, but she did not take it off. Out of the chaos space, without waiting for the song to ask, Jiwei has taken the initiative to say, "Miss, I just got the rules of the brain hole world. Once you die in the hands of the male lead, it will really die, really it scared me to death, but fortunately Miss Sister is fine." The words are silent. Jiwei continued, "Miss, the source of the soul in the brain hole world is powerful, but the risks are also great. Should we change to another system?" Yanj interrupted him, "Can the system be changed at will?" "It's a little pricey," Jiwei said. "Replacement of the system will be backfired." These words are vague, but wouldn't Yanj understand, it's the chickens that are eating back. This is an affirmative sentence. Jiwei did not understand the woman's brain circuit, and answered weakly, "Yes." Yanj laughed, and the fluttering laughter could not tell the slightest mood. "Continue the mission, the main root of me is dead, and you will die together, and you are not too lonely with me." Jiwei's desire to survive is particularly strong. He never wanted to die, and he did not want to die in such a place. He said busily, "Sister, I hope no one will die for you. You have to believe me, I want you." The heart of sincerity can be learned. "Yanj, is there any news for the chickens?" "Yes, not yet." "Enter the mission." "Huh," Jiwei was a little stunned, "Miss Sister, you haven't asked me what is Crystal Heart and the role of Crystal Heart." "That's a good thing, Miss Sister, you can use it directly on yourself." Yanji closed his eyes and said, "Start the mission." Jiwei's voice was extremely disappointed, "Oh." Before entering the mission, Qi Yuan's voice and smile appeared again. Only this time, it was not the adult Qi Yuan who appeared in the brain hole world, but the child who always called her sister when she was young. It is the mighty one. No wonder there is such a capability. He was born of a brain hole world like him. Looking back at the moment, Yan Ji not only did not have the slightest flattery of joy, but was completely cool. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1117. Yan Ji doesn't feel that he has something to remember for the mighty. Like the mighty, all his experience is to conform to the heavenly path, in order to let himself explore all the ways to ascend and integrate with the heavenly path. The mighty person should not have obsessions. If so, he cannot break the obsessions himself, and there will be rules of heaven to help him break the obsessions. Once she is really the obsession of the mighty, she will definitely be a tragic end in the future. Yanj feels a little unlucky. She shuddered at the thought that the mighty might take her as a dedication. What she fears most about a tree like this is lightning. The rule of heaven throws a thunder on her little sapling, and she can die. Hemp eggs, depressed, internal injuries. Enter the brain hole world again. Yanj tried to scold his mother after going through her task list again. The male lead in this brain hole world, he is in the Xiaoxian world. Such an immortal should have no desire, even if there is, it is for the heaven and earth people and the road. However, this male lead has a special hobby. He likes to be tangled with swingers. Probably it is impossible to do such a thing with the demon girl in reality, so he opens such a brain hole world himself. Yanj is now the demon girl who commits adultery. She has now been seized by the righteous men who are the masters of these men, who are discussing to burn her to vent their anger. Because of her demon girl's inferiority and various endless means, these righteous people sent her to the windward platform at the highest point of Qiandao Cliff, southwest of Xianling Mountain, where the first person on the right path returned to Yuan. On. This so-called windward tower is actually a prison cell, and it is also the highest level cell in the whole fairyland. No matter what monsters enter this place, they will be tortured and die. Yanj had just been locked into the so-called Qiandao windward at this moment. Qianbianya, as the name implies, is because the terrain of Xianling Mountain is too high, and Qinlianya is the highest air outlet of Xianling Mountain. Therefore, standing on the top of Qianlianya cliff, let alone ordinary people, even those practitioners, the sparse cultivators, will also be instantly smashed into flesh and blood by the fluttering wind knife on the cliff, and die instantly. Therefore, the place of Qianbianya is also said by the Emperor Yandian in the eyes of Xianxia. Fortunate enough to be able to enter Thousand Blades Cliff, since repairing the memory of everyone in the fairyland, except that there was a great devil N years ago, and now this demon girl. The so-called windward platform of Qianbianya is a large hanging stone at the top of the cliff. There is a ban on it. Even when the big devil entered the windward platform and couldn't get out, he could only passively bear those wind knives. Yanj lay on this stone platform for a whole day, and the aura in his body was almost consumed by fighting against those wind knives. The master here has not come to the hero to save the beauty. Once these wind blades fall on the body, they can definitely cut off a piece of human flesh. Yanj didn't have time to think that the Rush Sun Giwen fairy wanted a demon girl to relieve her boredom. Once her aura was exhausted, she really had to let these wind blades rag. In order to be able to delay time, Yanj simply condensed the aura cover, sacrificed the demon girl's basic magic weapon Suanwuya pot, and made a pot dance of tiger dance on this suspended stone platform. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1118. Don't ask why Yanj, the demon girl's innate weapon, is a mouth basket. Yanj doesn't know. She only knew that in this brain-hole world, the magic weapon that swept the world of Xiaoxian was not a sword and a whip, but a pot. Pure and pure pot. The variety of pots in this plane is endless, and it is simply a necessary tool for home traveling to cultivate immortals. It is almost impossible to avoid those wind blades by your own ability, but fortunately, even if there are wounds on the body from time to time, it is not fatal to dodge in time because of the song. At this time, it depends on the flexibility of the body and the dodging skills. Yanj martial arts entered the battle. Not even a breather. So tossing all day long, unconsciously until midnight. Yanj didn't know when these blades stopped. The surroundings were dark and silent. She was lying motionless on the slate, covered in blood. It really didn't have the strength to move a finger. Suddenly, a white shadow appeared in front of her eyes, ripped off her clothes that were no longer clothes, and hugged her and jumped off Kandaya. Words of song. So this is the handsome appearance of the male lead. She really missed Chi Yuan, who cooked her the whole fish feast, and the guy gave her some sweetness anyway. The master here was so good that she finally showed her face, but she was holding her to jump off the cliff. Really 10,000 mmp in my heart. However, the mood of Yanj did not last long. After being held by Giwen Shangxian and jumping off the cliff, he entered the warm water. This water seems to have healing effects. As soon as the body is immersed in the water, the dry danshan and the whole body's injuries in the body heal quickly. Yanj's consciousness has always been sober, but his body is unable to move because of numbness due to prolonged fighting. As soon as she recovered her strength at this moment, she pinched the man's neck and bit her lips. The high above Giwen Shangxian was thinking of being able to smash the phoenix with the demon girl. Otherwise, it will not open up such a brain-hole world. Since this man is not active, Yanj will take the initiative, lest she have to go to Qianbianya again to suffer the flesh. Giwen Shangxian seemed to be frightened by the behavior of Yanj. His body that was holding Yanj was now frozen at this moment, and his whole body was filled with ignorance. Where would Yanj give up this great opportunity, so as not to be intimidated by his killing intentions? She pried open his lips and entered forcefully, and her body was entangled in the water like water plants. Originally, she is a demon girl who is good at deceiving people. She has a good background and has entered the core of mastery of all kinds of words. Yanj's hands have grasped the life root of Giwen Shangxian for the first time. Yuan Shangxian retreated half a minute. There is a Lingqi moisturizer that can heal people's wounds, and Yan's injuries were almost healed after the first round was done. She didn't give the man a chance to build up energy, let alone give him time to escape from the bottom of the water, pressing him to come round and round to pick up the yang and fill the yin. As a demon girl, Yanj carried forward this collusion ability, and all sorts of seductive and insidious methods came together to squeeze the guy out. Yanj's eyelids rolled over and passed out. Originally thought that one must wake up in the man's cave. The wind blade draws a deep visible bone in the body, so that Yanj is sober. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1119. It was too late to think about how she appeared on this broken platform again, and Yanj's figure flew up and down to dodge one after another. This broken man ran after sleep, turned ruthlessly. It seems that she took too little tonic last night. I don't know if there are any missionaries in this brain hole world. What is the situation of those taskmen? Yan Ji originally wanted to ask the chickens, but the next moment I remembered that the chickens were not in the brain hole space and had to endure. Probably it was because of Ling Quan, or maybe it was the effect of her picking up the yang and replenishing the yin. This time, the dodge wind blade was not as strenuous as the previous day. Injuries are still inevitable, but much stronger than the first day. Yanj's hiding is another whole day, even if Yang is used to fill the yin. In the end, Dan Tian, who is still being persecuted by these wind blades, has no energy at all, and she looks embarrassed as if she is full of blood. Soft-footed, she was once again hugged by Gui Yuanxian and jumped off Qianqinya in the silent night. Yan Ji is very laborious to move his fingers, not to mention open his eyes to see what the Skiwen Shangxian looks like. She tried to jump off Qianbianya during the day, but was surrounded by restrictions. She couldn't get out of the prison of Qianbianya at all. At this moment, the man was holding her, which seemed to be an easy jump, making Yanj really envious. After entering the bottom of the water, Yanj turned back slightly, and continued to entangle the man's body, and began the journey of picking the sun and replenishing the yin. This man's cultivation is unfathomable, and he is also the first person to cultivate the immortality in the immortal realm. Yanj could not hold his thigh, so he could only open his thigh. After all, men don't resist. Cai's exhaustion was exhausted, and then Yan Ji closed his eyes and fell asleep with his arms around the man's neck. She thought she held the man's neck tight enough, but she didn't expect to wake up again because of the wind blade. The man ran after he slept. Fortunately, she also used yang to replenish the yin, and the two of them hit an opponent on the wolf's heart or the dog, otherwise it was really a loss. During the day, like a channeling monkey, hiding from the wind blade on this suspended slate, and at night picking up the sun and filling the yin, Yanj gradually adapted to this day. She gradually realized that there was no need for an aura cover on Qianbian cliff. If she used her own to avoid the wind blade, not only the cultivation was growing, but also the flesh and bones would gradually become hard. Of course, it is undeniable that there is also a slight relationship with Yang Bian. The punishment that can make you strong is not punishment, it is tempering your mind. It's been more than half a year. Yan Ji gets it every night when he gets along with a man. He keeps getting it until he is completely out of energy and coma. Because of this, although the two of them have been smashing for more than half a year, don't say that they talk to this man, even the guy's facial features don't know what it looks like. Perhaps because this immortal ridge is the place where Gaixian Shangxian lives, Qianbianya is an ordinary cultivator. Songs are rare and quiet. But it was only half a year after it was quiet. One day half a year later, Yanj was confronting those wind blades, and within sight, suddenly noticed that many people came towards Qianbian cliff. These people argue as they walk. They didn't avoid the words, probably they didn't care if they didn't hear them. Yanj gradually cleared his thoughts from the arguments of these people. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Weipang. Chapter 1120. These people did not expect that more than half a year later, the demon girl has not died. One by one, I want to ask Gaixian Shangxian to personally cut the song in half to get it done once and for all. Giwen Shangxian's martial art is Jianzong. Giwen Shangxian hasn't heard anything outside the window for hundreds of years. The head of Jianzong is unwilling to ask Giwen Shangxian to come forward because of such a small thing. Old ancestor, is it so easy to ask? Take the stand firmly. Muzong, the head of Jianzong, is a straightforward man, and he directly answers these people, whoever you want to kill her is because such a demon girl who is no longer dangerous has our Giwen Shangxian come forward. What do you think is it someone you want to call? The so-called big devil had only supported the Kenya cliff for 7 days and 79 days before hanging up. This demon girl has lived on Kenya cliff for half a year. Do you think she is not in danger? What day will she be? Going out of this 1,000-edged cliffs will surely stir up the entire world of Xiaoxian. If you worry, you kill her. Everyone argued for a long time without reaching a conclusion. One by one they could only stare at the direction of Yanj. Yanj thinks that if these guys know that she hasn't hung up, it's not only because Giwen Shangxian put water on her, but also because this guy is nourishing her every night, and I don't know how I will feel. In the past 6 months, even if Giwen Shangxian's non-stop tonic to the words can still not be spared under these all-pervasive wind blades. She was quite evasive. It looks miserable. Those who were not far away staring at her one by one really wished to eat her flesh and drank her blood, but none of them wanted to go forward and risk the danger of being poked by the wind blade. The head of Jianzong was reluctant to find out Giwen Shangxian, and naturally this matter had to be left to rest. Before leaving, other martial arts did not forget to scold Yanj, the demon girl, to vent their anger. These guys, it would be better to kill her with this effort, but it's really some buns. As the song sneered, there was a sense of crisis. This place is a good place to practice, but for such a long time, if these people find out her condition, maybe they will force Giwen Shangxian to kill her. Although I know that Gaixian Shangxian values her demon girl very much, but if there is a way out, Yanj will not put her life in the hands of others. After another month, at the end of the evening, the enthusiasm of Yang Yang and Yin reinvigorating with Giwen Shangyang was overwhelming, and the seemingly dying words suddenly struck Giwen Shangxian in an overbearing way. Dan Tian. Giwen Shangxian shuddered, pressing his palm on the back of his words. Yanj did not flinch. Her eyes, which had been tightly closed, opened, and the apricot mist with water vapor in her corners glared toward Giwen and the fairy. Xingmu was a little enchanted in her clear innocence. The two blended and shattered in her eyes, and she was perfect. Just to Shangui Yuan and Shangxian's confused and shocked eyes, her red lips slightly opened, and she smiled charmingly and charmingly. Giwen Shangxian fainted a moment. It was also at this moment, the words were violently forced. His hand that wanted to touch the corner of Yan Ji suddenly fell. Yan Ji squinted, feeling the abundance of aura full of body, sighed comfortably, his hands pushed the Giwen lord holding her waist, and the whole person rushed towards the cliff like a string of arrows, but for a moment disappeared. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Weipang. Chapter 1121. Giwen Shangxian was paralyzed in the Lingqi, staring at the shadow of Yan Ji's departure, and there was no emotion in her deep eyes. Yan Ji left the so-called Jianzong overnight. When the people in the main gates found out that the demon girl who had turned the Xiaoxian realm upside down escaped Jianqinya, one after another looked at each other, shaking with anger. This demon girl is really a scourge. If you run this way, how can you find it later? The point is that the evil girl's favorite scourge is the elders or sons of the leaders. The son of the cultivator of immortals is struggling, and it is not easy to come to a lonely seedling. The hard work of raising is not the evil of the demon girl. The chiefs wanted to find the trouble of Jianzhong. After all, the demon girl ran from the thousand-edged cliff of Jianzhong, but where was Jianzhong easily insulted? At first it was these people who wanted to send people to Jianzhong cliff of Jianzhong, but now they have run away, and what relationship does Jianzhong have? Although the two sides did not tear their faces, they also had a strange encounter with each other. The two sides have not yet reconciled as before, and the box which has begun chaos. Whose master's son was confused by the demon girl, and the elder son of the case was sucked and repaired by the demon girl. Everything has become a major event in the cultivation of immortals. The older generations in AncientChina were so angry that their noses were crooked, but the fairies often appeared in AncientChina, but they couldn't catch a trace of the fairies. The mysterious paradise of the mixed world opened in the fairyland, and the mixed realm of the mixed world was opened once every millennium. Because it is very dangerous, only powerful people above the Yuan infant can enter. Although the mixed realm of the Yuan dynasty is dangerous, it contains the heavenly ordered magical artifacts, the spirit planting spirit grass, and it is said that there are people who can eat the first level elixir. People above Yuaning want to break through especially difficult. The hidden realm of mixed Yuan is a rare opportunity for them. No matter how dangerous it is, no one will shrink back and give up. As a result, the mysterious world of the mixed Yuan opened, and the people in the fairyland did not care about the chaotic demon girl. All the ancestors of the Yuan infants who had not appeared for 100 years all appeared at the entrance of the mixed realm. To everyone's surprise, they also saw the legendary Giwen Shangxian at the entrance. This is the first person in AncientChina realm, and it is said that it will soon break through the wall and rise. Why did he come to mystery? However, if there isn't for the returning gods to the Shangxian, this mystery of the mixed Yuan will certainly be a lot easier. So everyone saw Giwen Shangxian, although surprised, it was hard to conceal joy in their eyes. Everyone at Giwen Shangxian nodded slightly. After the entrance to the mixed realm was completely stable, Giwen Shangxian took the lead to go in. This entry was a whirlwind storm. Everyone got involved in the storm, and tried everything to finally get out of the storm. Looking around, there was no trace of a companion in front. Giwen Shangxian entered here, not as everyone guessed, in order to find herbs that can make him better. It was he who knew that there was a blind phoenix that the demon girl needed in this mixed Yuan secret. Because he once entered the secret realm of mixed Yuan, Giwen Shangxian glanced around, and then headed southwest. In the mixed realm of secrets, there are many crises, and the monsters here are also big monsters that are not common in the AncientChina realm. Even Gui Yuanxian against these big monsters had to be careful. Because of this, although he knew how to go, his pace of progress was slowed down a lot. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Weipang. Chapter 1122. Xianfengkou is on a small island in the lake. Giwen Shangxian was accidentally swept by the spit of the water demon when he was fighting with the water demon in the lake. When he noticed that it was wrong, the whole person was one. A state of chaos. On the small island in the lake, the red and white patches are all immortal grass. The woman was standing in the phoenix grass at this moment, slightly raised her eyebrow, and smiled at him with surprise. Go to Yuanxian. She wore a mask on her face, and she had mixed in among the immortals before. At this moment, she looked very ordinary and innocent, but she looked like a young girl who did not know anything about the world. She can hide from everyone like this, but she can't hide from him. After all, she had supplemented him so many times, and all she smelled was his body. Not to mention wearing a mask, she could be recognized as ashes. Giwen Shangxian did not speak, but sat down in place and tried to clear the poison from his body. Although this poison is not overbearing, it can disturb his mind. Yan Ji saw that although he was breathing smoothly, but his face was reddish. How could he not know that he had been poisoned by the monster in the water? Her heart moved at will, and the mask on her face disappeared, revealing her enchanting features that could be deceived by both men and women. Her footsteps fluttered slowly, but in a short time she fell in front of Giwen Shangxian, reached out and caught his coat. "Shangxian, what is wrong with you? Is it poisoned?" Giwen Shangxian is still settled, naturally will not care about her. Yanj went on to say, "It's poisoned, it's better to it out in time. Otherwise, the poison will go deep into the bone marrow, and I will help the fairy to see where the poison is." During the conversation, Giwen Shangxian's clothes had been peeled off piece by piece, and the belly of his fingers seemed to touch the firm and thick chest of Giwen Shangxian's body. Giwen Shangxian's blushing face turned redder, even as if it were dripping blood. Yan Ji sat kneeling in front of him slowly, and the hand stroking the belly of his chest slipped into his pants. Giwen Shangxian opened her eyes and stared at the words with a stern expression, "You demon." Yanj met his seemingly indignant glance, kissed him with red lips, and then giggled and laughed. "Shangxian, I'm saving your life, why are you angry at me instead? Look at each other." Her voice was somewhat charming in the grievances. Her hand did not flinch, but she went deeper into the hinterland. Her body was closer to Giwen Shangxian, and her soft voice was like a drip of juice. "Shangxian, do you want me to help you? If you want, please ask me." Giwen Shangxian stared at the song. Staring and staring, he closed his eyes suddenly again. Yanj blew in his ears, "Shangxian, if you don't abandon the slave family would give up this innocent body and save the fairy. Where is their innocence?" He snorted in his heart, but listening to her soft voice made his heart even more uncomfortable. Yan Ji's fingers were slowly pulled out, only turning around the legs of Gaixian Shangxian, and tenderly said, "Shangxian, please me, I will be your antidote, let you toss." Her hot breath fell in his ears, and he fell into his body. He felt that his whole body was numb. The tip of her tongue twitched his li. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1123. Some time ago, because of problems with the cultivation method, Giwen Shangxian would do such things with this demon girl. After he practiced his exercises, those night entanglements with her gradually disappeared. On the contrary, she remembered that she had a physical problem during his time, and he spent night and day to supplement him, so that it took him so long to practice the exercises. He came this time to kill her. Such a demon girl dared to boldly adopt Yang and replenish Yin to him. It's hard to let go of her heart without killing her. But at this moment her soft voice sounded in his ears, and those obsessive memories that faded out of his head became clear. The softness of her body, the tenderness of her voice, and the in her place. He raised the hand that was supposed to hit her Tianlinga, but finally pinched her chin and kissed it. Yan Ji turned away from him and said softly, "Shangxian, you haven't begged me yet." She shoved him down on the ground, riding on him, raising her eyebrows, and glaring at him with a smile. The charming hook in the corner of her eye was so captivating that he couldn't even resist. "Go to the gods, please me." He was gritting his teeth, but in the words of her voice, and her fingerless body leaning against each other, he just felt like his body was crumbling. He looked at her steamy eyes and his eyes were terrible. The thoughts of killing her had disappeared, leaving only her soft body in his mind, and he asked in a dumb voice, How? Yanj choked Giwen and Shangxian's neck, and pecked him on the lips like a reward. "You need to call me a demon, say you need me, please give me." Giwen Shangxian's throat rolled, but after taking the first step, the second step and the third step are much easier. "Demon, please give me, I need you." When he said this, he only felt that his stomach was more uncomfortable and unbearable. His eyes even became red, and his breathing became quicker. With one hand, he grabbed Yan's waist, and then took off his clothes. Yan's slender fingers slowly moved on his face, and the slight heat of his fingertips made Giwen Shangxian feel like his body was on fire. Yang said in his mouth, "It's been a long time since you thought you had been thinking of the demon. You just wanted to be with the demon and the spring breeze." Giwen Shangxian was untying her fingers, and he didn't know whether he was excited or angry. His red face was even redder. He glared at the song and saw that she was still not active. You don't have to go in." He was the first person in the world of cultivating immortals. Everyone who saw him had to shout to the fairy. How dare she treat him like that? Yan Ji's fingers curled his hair. Hearing the corners of his lips, his watery eyes glowed with coquettishness, and smiled at him, his voice tenderly said, "Shangxian, hurry up, the demon wants to listen." Her voice was so soft that it was around him like water. He just felt like he was going to die of thirst, and he could not wait to swallow her puddle of water immediately. The momentum that had just gathered was suddenly hesitant. Wolverine retracted his eyes, and the hoarse voice of Gaixian said in a panic, I have been thinking of the demon for a long time. I just want to be with the demon spring breeze once, you give me." The oppressed in his body was completely inspired, and before he finished speaking, he had sat up and hugged the words, and a turnover made him on it.